I'm marrying a 20-year-old employee. We haven't submitted our marriage registration, so no division of property. Greg, in a burst of mischief as if announcing a great success, his eyes sparkled. You didn't know, did you? The thing is, we aren't actually married. We're not husband and wife. In fact, we never submitted our marriage registration. So, you don't have any right to blame me for my affairs. Greg and I have been living together as husband and wife for 3 years. Greg's unusually bubbly smile is unpleasant to me. Thanks for taking care of my mom. So, now that you're no longer needed, let's call it quits. Let's end our living together. Hearing his confession, I'm truly shocked from the bottom of my heart. Is this a lie? I wish he would say it's a joke. I'm filled with disbelief. Huh? You didn't know anything, did you? The more he laughs, the calmer I become. It's Greg who is misunderstanding and doesn't know anything. I am Wendy Hansen, 32 years old. I'm a corporate president's wife, married for 3 years. We don't have any children yet. Hearing just that, you might think I'm a lady of leisure, but in reality, I'm living quite a strict life. Your posture is poor. Stand up straight. Yes, mother. Called out by my mother-in-law, I immediately straightened my posture. I reacted to her voice, but right now, I'm just at home folding laundry. I'm not in front of other people or eating. The home I share with my mother-in-law is not a relaxing place. I met Greg about 5 years ago at a hospital. The reason was that Greg's mother, my current mother-in-law, had a mild stroke and was hospitalized. I was working as a nurse there. My mother-in-law was almost paralyzed on one side of her body and couldn't move freely. Despite her tough hospital life, she always seemed fine. She showed respect not only to doctors but also to us nurses and the part-time workers at the shop. Even afflicted with illness, she maintained her dignity. She seems to be the wife of a president of a well-known company around here. True to being a president's wife, I respected her. Gradually, she remembered my name, and we became close. Which led to my marriage proposal to her only son, Greg. I'm home. Welcome back. You must be tired from your business trip.
Yeah.
Around the time we got married, Greg's father passed the position of president to Greg. Living with almost retired in-laws, I support the family as a housewife, behind the scenes. Here, this is a souvenir. Have it during snack time with mom and the others. Thank you, as always. Greg is 40 years old this year. He had a few girlfriends, but never married. Pressured by his mother, he married me. He's upright and dedicated to his work. He never fails to bring me souvenirs from his business trips. It's curious why such a wonderful man hadn't married until his late 30s. And of course, there's a reason. His hidden personality is difficult. Phew. After finishing my tasks for the day, I entered the bedroom and sat on the bed. Enveloped by the soft bed, I let out a big sigh. At that moment, Greg, who seemed to be sleeping next to me, turned towards me. What was that just now? Sorry, I'm just a bit tired. Why? Why are you tired? The calmness he had shown in the living room vanished, and Greg pressed me with rapid questions. Come on, answer me. Wendy, you're not even working, so why are you tired? My days are quite hard. I prepare breakfast from 6 a.m. and then do housework. In between, I need to help my physically challenged mother-in-law. Our home is remodeled for barrier-free living so she can use a wheelchair. But my mother-in-law tries to walk on her own as much as possible. That alone would be manageable. But at my mother-in-law's suggestion, I attend tea party, flower arrangement, cooking, and etiquette classes. Moreover, I work at Greg's company doing clerical work for half a day on weekdays, 2 to 3 times. My schedule is packed. I can't enjoy aesthetics or afternoon tea like the beautiful corporate wife in TV dramas. And always under my mother-in-law's watchful eye, resting on the sofa is impossible. Housework and helping my mom are a wife's duties, right? The classes are your hobby, after all. If Wendy had been a more sensible person and already learned manners, you wouldn't need to do this now, right? And the clerical work at my company? You're not seriously considering that as work, are you? Greg laughed as if in disbelief. My shoulders, finally relaxed, hurt from being hunched over. I stayed silent, and Greg seemed satisfied as if he had won the argument. I used to complain to Greg about being tired without a break, but I stopped. It's useless, and it only makes me more tired. Indeed, every day is tough. Yet, I keep going because I can see the results. Excuse me, Wendy, may I have a moment? My mother-in-law called me with a sharp voice, making me tense up. Wondering if I had done something wrong. The flowers you arranged at the entrance are lovely. They really reflect your generous and kind nature. Being praised by my strict mother-in-law makes me feel double or even triple the joy. At first, I was often scolded, and it wasn't uncommon for me to cry into the night. Finally, I feel like I can behave in a way that's not embarrassing for a president's wife. However, Greg dislikes acting as a couple. He even refuses to let me accompany him to parties where it's normal for spouses to attend together, saying, "It's embarrassing to have you there." I think it's more embarrassing to be seen as a wife who doesn't support her husband. But he ends it with, "Just pretend you're sick that day." The story of our meeting in a hospital has been twisted, and I, who am naturally pale and slender, have become known as the frail wife. I've become a rare character that is seldom seen in public. Greg, wearing the mask of a kind husband who cares about my health elsewhere, is really good at keeping up appearances, despite laughing behind my back and undoubtedly cheating on me. Amidst the busy days, I discovered lipstick on his dress shirts. It wasn't just once or twice. It's like a clear provocation from his affair partner. It seems I'm being mocked even by Greg's affair partner. I wash the stains off his shirts carefully, but a faint pink remains. Lipstick? I don't know. I go to places with women for business entertainment, maybe it got on then. I've confronted him about the lipstick. But Greg was not at all perturbed. The lipstick was on the inside of his shirt, where it couldn't possibly get unless he took off his clothes. What? You think I'm cheating? Yeah, I am. So what? Is that bad? I was determined not to let him dodge the question. But I was taken aback by his carefree and confident manner. Just kidding. I don't have time for affairs. I'm a super busy president. With business trips and entertainment, oh, I have another trip next week. I'm so busy I might collapse from overwork. I'm not like you, who has all the time in the world to imagine weird things. I work without rest just to feed you, and yet you say such terrible things. But, what if I really was cheating? You want a divorce? Even though you're unemployed? I wondered what I wanted by pursuing Greg's cheating. I expected him to either apologize sincerely or become grumpy. I never expected him to tease me with sparkling eyes, leaving me speechless. The thought of divorce crossed my mind. But I neither have the time to think deeply nor the energy to take action. Still, the busy days went on as usual. Then one day, I was scolded by my mother-in-law. You are Greg's wife. As his wife and as a member of the Hanson family, you should not bring us shame. Perhaps she noticed my cold demeanor towards Greg and that something was off. Her words weighed heavily on my already burdened heart. Then, she made an even stricter proposal. Wendy, you should work more. Work. I'm already exhausted. I thought I was managing the housework perfectly. But what impossible demands are they going to make now? Work at our company. Not just a few days a week, but more. From now on, support Greg's work. My mother-in-law spoke dispassionately. I found myself shouting unconsciously. I can't. It's impossible. It was the first time I saw my mother-in-law open her mouth in surprise. Even though my brain was sending signals not to say it, my mouth moved on its own. I'm tired of it. It's impossible. I can't work any more than this. A wife is not free labor. Not a convenient tool that can be used for free. Even without getting paid as a wife, it's impossible. My voice broke mid-sentence. It's pathetic to cry in front of others as an adult. But the repressed feelings couldn't be held back anymore. Actually, I've been forced to work for Greg's company for free. Even if I receive a generous amount for living expenses? The lack of compensation for labor only wears me down more. What did you say? My mother-in-law's face twisted in shock, then I learned of an unexpected fact and plan from her. Eventually, with strong encouragement from my mother-in-law, I prioritized work. I quit the classes for manners, but with housework and supporting my mother-in-law, I still had no time to rest while also working. The busier I was, the easier it was to forget Greg's betrayal. However, one night, Greg's ultimate betrayal was revealed. Can you leave now? Suddenly confronted with this in the late-night bedroom, I lifted my heavy eyelids. Greg stood with his arms crossed, looking down at me from above. Why, we're already going to bed. If you don't like sharing a room tonight, you can sleep in the guest room. Waking me up just to kick me out seemed like petty harassment. Greg was smirking as if plotting something. Probably he had been drinking. That's why he felt bold enough to pick a fight. Huh? You're misunderstanding. I want you out of this house, not just this room. I rubbed my eyes and tilted my head. Greg lifted his chin and smiled contentedly. Get up for now. You shouldn't be here anymore. Leave now. It's divorce, divorce. Oh, wait, maybe not divorce. His words made no sense. I was still groggy, unable to comprehend. Suddenly divorce, why? Oh, have you fallen for your affair partner? It felt like I was dreaming. Greg wasn't scary because he was smirking, so I asked directly. After asking, the thought flashed that Greg might explode in anger. But surprisingly, he burst out laughing. He clapped his hands and held his stomach, laughing hysterically. What a misunderstanding. You have no right to talk about affairs. You're making a big mistake. That thing, you didn't know? Of course, you didn't, huh? Just when I thought he was provocatively taunting me, Greg dropped a bombshell the next moment. I'm marrying a 20-year-old employee. We haven't submitted our marriage registration, so no division of property. Unable to stop laughing, Greg, while shaking his shoulders, proudly dropped this huge bomb on me. What? I was speechless, dumbfounded. You didn't know, did you? Turns out, we're not married. Not husband and wife. Actually, we never submitted our marriage registration. So, you have no right to blame me for my affairs. Wendy, your mouth is hanging open. You look so silly. Well, it's understandable. Being told we're not married would surprise anyone. Greg's eyes shone as if he had pulled off a great prank. We had been living together as husband and wife for 3 years. Now, it's revealed it was all a prank. Remember when we got married? On our anniversary. I surprised you by saying I'd submitted our marriage registration. Nope, that was a lie. I didn't. So, Wendy, you're not a wife but just a freeloader. Greg's smile was unlike any I had seen before. Happy about marrying a young girl? Or just enjoying tormenting me? Either way, it was an unpleasant smile. Thanks for taking care of my mom. Because you supported her rehab, she can now live a somewhat normal life. I'm grateful, really. But now that you're no longer needed, let's end this. Oh, not divorce since we're not married. No need for compensation or division of assets. Just leave, and we're good. Greg, wiping tears from laughing too much, said. The more he laughed, the calmer I became. The one who's misunderstanding and knows nothing is Greg. Huh? You know nothing, do you? What? Finally, he spoke. Greg kept a mocking smile towards me. Hearing his confession, I was truly shocked from the bottom of my heart. Is this a lie? I wish he would say it's a joke. We're not married? That's right. That can't be. I was dumbfounded, holding my head. I get you don't want to believe it, but from the start, I had no romantic feelings for you. So I never intended to marry you. Well, I needed someone to take care of my mom. And I was getting on in years. So I thought it might be okay to have you around temporarily as my wife. I can't believe it. Yeah. I know it's hard to believe. But I'm getting tired of laughing, so accept reality already. Greg's laughter seemed to have subsided. He must be satisfied after thoroughly demeaning me. No. I can't believe it. However, I was still in shock. Greg, satisfied on his own, started to get irritated with me, who couldn't catch up. What's with you? We're not married. Get out. Even a slow-witted old woman should understand, right? I can't make it any simpler. It's not about that. Taking a deep breath, I told him. It's unbelievable that you thought we weren't married. I looked straight into Greg's eyes. If we weren't married, why would I have the same last name as you? I've been to the hospital a few times because of colds, and even though I'm a paper driver, I've renewed my license. I've been living as Wendy Hansen for 3 years. There's no way we're not married. Now it was Greg who looked puzzled. You thought you could deceive me for years. By just not submitting the marriage registration? Such a lie would be discovered immediately, don't you think? Didn't you seriously realize it would come out during hospital or government procedures? Greg's gaze began to dart around restlessly. It seemed he was finally starting to realize that he was not the one to laugh, but the one being laughed at. Wow, I really can't believe it. Greg's plan was too foolish. Despite acting like a respectable president in public, I worried about how empty his head must be. So, you were deceiving me? Somehow playing the victim, Greg stumbled backward. Deceive. I never imagined you thought we weren't married. No way. So when did you realize we weren't married? The day after you surprised me. With the marriage registration you supposedly submitted. What? Since then. Surprised, Greg reeled back, and I was just as shocked. We had started living with Greg's parents about a month before our wedding ceremony. But Greg, uncharacteristically romantic, kept saying we should register our marriage on Christmas or my birthday, delaying the submission. Then, suddenly, he surprised me with our registration on our anniversary. You were so fixated on the marriage date. Yet you chose the day we first watched a movie together for our marriage. I don't even remember such a trivial anniversary. You just made it up to cover your tracks, huh? Greg slumped, making himself smaller. I continued calmly. But the next day. I found our marriage registration stuffed in a bundle of old newspapers. You looked so puzzled, wondering why the supposed submitted registration was there. Puzzled, huh? As Greg tilted his head, the bedroom door flung open. Instinctively, I straightened up. There stood my mother-in-law. Yes, it was very puzzling. I was the one who found the unsubmitted marriage registration. I hurriedly got out of bed and rushed to my mother-in-law, leaning against the wall. It was indeed strange. Finding the unsubmitted marriage registration was me. I was astonished at such carelessness. Wendy and I went to submit the marriage registration ourselves. I can't believe it was intentional not to submit it. What a dishonest thing to do. Chastised by his mother, Greg's attitude changed completely. Suddenly, he fell to the floor and began to shout apologies. I'm sorry. It's not like that. I just wasn't ready to get married yet. But I always intended to marry someday. Even until now, you thought you were deceiving Wendy? Greg desperately searched for his next excuse and shouted again. No, it's not like that. I forgot we weren't married. Forgot what you yourself said just moments ago? It was you who started saying you weren't married. Your loud voice could be heard outside the room. I'm not fond of eavesdropping, though. Greg opened and closed his mouth, but couldn't find any excuses. He was visibly distraught, his eyes glistening with panic. But, Mom. Greg probably imagined driving me out and happily marrying his young affair partner. Being welcomed by his parents. It's clear he's confused, unable to easily drive me out and scolded by his mother. It seems like those who cheat have a fantasy world in their brain. Unable to accurately predict others' reactions. Enough with the excuses. It's unseemly. The harsh words you initially hurled at Wendy are the truth, aren't they? Mom. I'm sorry. My mother-in-law firmly grabbed Greg's head, forcing him to look up. His lips were trembling. Shouldn't you be apologizing to someone else? What? As my mother-in-law released her grip, Greg fell back onto the floor like a marionette with its strings cut. If you want to be with that woman, apologize sincerely to Wendy and properly get a divorce. You, being at fault, will pay the compensation. Don't forget about the division of assets, too. Greg's heavy breathing was audible. Wendy, I'm sorry. Greg apologized with a muffled voice, face buried in the floor. It didn't seem heartfelt. Mom. You're my mother. Don't side with a stranger. The next moment, a crisp sound echoed. My mother-in-law had slapped Greg's head. Surprised, Greg raised his face, only to be met with another open hand from my mother-in-law. Without hesitation, she smacked Greg's cheek this time. The usually gentle mother-in-law raised her hand like a demon. Though Greg was the one slapped, I tensed up too. Mom. Why are you hitting me? Who's the stranger here? Wendy is your wife. My daughter. My mother-in-law raised her voice for my sake. Greg. If it's divorce you want, that's fine. I was prepared for that. I gave Greg a smile, despite feeling cornered, loosening his tension slightly. I hope you'll be happy with the 20-year-old girl this time. Thank you, Wendy. You weren't a bad woman. I hope you find happiness in your next marriage too. But that might be difficult. You're already past 30, right? Just when the mood was improving, Greg couldn't wish for my happiness. He naturally looked down on me. My mother-in-law sighed deeply, and Greg hastily shrank back. As Wendy said, properly divorce and start a new life with the woman you love. There's no need to continue a failed marital relationship.
Yeah.
Maybe I will. Approved by his mother to marry his affair partner, Greg smiled. Wendy, I'm really sorry. Greg approached me and apologized. However, he whispered softly in my ear. No matter what, a mother loves her own son more than a stranger's wife. I dodged with a start, and Greg stuck out his tongue slightly. Mother, do you find such a son adorable? I asked my mother-in-law directly, pointing at Greg. Greg mumbled, I didn't say anything, trying to deny. But his words reached my mother-in-law standing right next to me. You. My mother-in-law's fists trembled. It seemed like a clenched fist might fly next. No. I just wanted to say that Mom's on my side. Because we're family, parents, and children. And Mom has always been tough on Wendy. Because she's a stranger, right? Even now, she's pretending to side with Wendy because she's an outsider, right? Greg clung to his mother. His self-serving argument cooled her anger, leaving her to respond indifferently. I had high hopes for Wendy. So I was merely guiding her to become worthy of the Hanson name. I'd ignore someone insignificant. Like Greg. I knew about your cheating and betrayal of Wendy but didn't scold you before it got this far. Maybe I made Wendy suffer. But I never disliked her, you understand? My mother-in-law took my hand, and I nodded deeply. I knew her intentions since she told me to work harder. That's why I could overcome any hardship. Greg, you seem confused again. But I will not interfere with your new life at all. Live it with the woman you love, just the two of you. Huh? Wendy, along with us, your parents-in-law, and the company your father passed down to us, are all saying to discard everything and enjoy a new life. Oh, don't worry about us. Even if you divorce Greg, you'll stay by our side, won't you? Asked by my mother-in-law, I nodded firmly. And don't worry about the company either. What? Because she will inherit it. Daughter? But I'm an only child. Despite saying this, Greg's wide eyes were fixed on me. My mother-in-law also gave me a gentle look. Alternating my gaze between the two, I nodded again. Yes, I will protect the precious company that father and mother have built. Now it's my turn. Understanding the situation, Greg crumbled to his knees. The parents had planned to disown their real son and make me their daughter-in-law, the successor of the company. Just for an affair, you'd do this. Choose an outsider over your own son. Well, maybe for a one-time mistake, we wouldn't take away the CEO position. But we know everything, you see? Greg swallowed hard. Then, my father-in-law slowly appeared. The color drained from Greg's face, which had been defiant. Greg, being the CEO doesn't mean you can do anything you want without consequences. I've heard of your numerous misdeeds. I may have retired, but I haven't lost all my connections to the company. My father-in-law had been mostly away from home even after retirement, seemingly supporting the company from the shadows. Firstly, womanizing as if it's normal. Apparently, you've been indiscriminately approaching new female employees, promising them expensive gifts if they date you. And for those who refused, you pressured them with your CEO authority. Either way, the situation has led to many female employees quitting. The environment has gotten so bad that even male employees, and those with long service, are leaving. Greg trembled pitifully, unable to defend himself. In front of my dignified father-in-law, he became meek. Moreover, your excessive overtime and business trips, most of which were personal. What were you doing, bringing young female employees along? Greg looked down even more. It seems he was mostly playing during work hours. It's surprising the company didn't collapse in 3 years with such a CEO. Do you realize how many employees have suffered because of you? You've even embezzled company funds, which is a crime. You can no longer continue as the CEO. This investigation had led the parents to give up on Greg and recommend me, who had been diligently serving the family, as the new CEO. Such a thing. Losing the absolute support of his parents. Greg realized he had suddenly fallen into an abyss while he thought he was sitting comfortably above everyone. It looks like you're the one who should leave this house, Greg. He slowly sat up and blankly stared upwards. My father-in-law grabbed Greg's arm and mercilessly threw him out into the dark outside. After that, Greg and I divorced without issue, and the compensation was paid. Of course, the property division was also properly handled. Moreover, Greg had been embezzling my salary, so I made him repay that. I wasn't working for free. The company's money is my money, isn't it? Surprisingly, his savings were meager, and after repaying the embezzled amount, Greg was left with only a few $10,000. He whined about sharing the company's money, confusing personal and company funds. Still thinking that way? The company's money isn't your money. But I didn't even get a severance package? Suddenly fired from being CEO and no severance, isn't that harsh? He didn't seem to understand the gravity of his actions. But he'll have to face the reality soon enough. What you did was embezzlement. A crime. It's only a matter of time before you get arrested. You can't embezzle and expect to get away with it. What, really? Losing his CEO title and without money at 40. Greg was quickly dumped by his 20-year-old affair partner. His fantasy world must have withered. Greg's head was indeed empty. Even thinking about reemployment is humiliating for him after getting used to being treated like royalty. Greg didn't want to get caught by the police. His desperation was palpable. I want another chance. I want to be the CEO again. Let's make up. I won't fail this time. If you want a chance, start with job hunting sites. Who knows, you might get hired as a new recruit if you're lucky. No, but I'm the former CEO. It would be ridiculous not to at least be an executive. But I have to retract my previous statement. Even if he officially applies for a job, I'll use my authority as the president to ensure he's never hired. Eventually, Greg was arrested before he could even start job hunting. He might have gotten away with a fine for the embezzlement alone. However, Greg took thoughtless actions. Wendy. You're all I have left. I need your help. One day, I answered a call from a public phone, and it was Greg. Whispering in a hoarse, desperate voice, he said, "If this continues, I'll be thrown into jail. Hide me. And tell the police I didn't embezzle anything." He had attempted to tackle a police officer and escape when he was about to be arrested. Where are you now? In a small park near the house. Understood. I'll head there right now, so wait for me. Attempted marriage fraud, infidelity, embezzlement, and fleeing from the police, it seems he acts impulsively without much thought. It's puzzling how such parents ended up with a son like him. Thank you, Wendy. Everyone left me after I was no longer the president. But you're different. I've finally realized it. I love you, Wendy, who loves me. I had just received a call from the police about Greg's escape. One of the officers had been taken to the hospital with a back injury. I have no obligation to shelter Greg. The only option is to cooperate with the police. I'll hide in the park and wait for Wendy to come. The one heading to Greg won't be me but the police officers. I thought I heard a man scream from somewhere far away as I opened the window of the balcony on the second floor. Greg's harassment is over, and I'm focused on my work as a president. I was prepared to bear the burden, but it's not just for the president to carry. I'm supported by the employees. Unlike Greg, who misunderstood his importance as the CEO and privatized the company. I want to ensure a good flow of communication. Thank you for taking over the company. I feel at ease with you, Wendy. It's great you're working hard, but remember to cherish your private life too. Don't worry about Greg or us. If you find someone good, consider remarrying. After the divorce, the in-laws and I went through an adoption process. And they cherish me as a daughter, not just a daughter-in-law. I'm not considering remarriage. After all, I'm already in my mid-30s. Did you imagine becoming a president in your 30s? Of course not. That was completely unexpected. Then, remarriage isn't out of the question, is it? It's your life. Live it happily. My mother-in-law smiled kindly, her face etched with deep wrinkles.